Today, I would like to talk to you about the general direction we are moving in. I'm not talking about South Africa here, although South Africa is definitely included. What I want to talk to you about is the general direction in which the entire world is moving at the moment. If I had spoken to you maybe 10 years ago about the New World Order and a one world government, etc., most of you would have laughed at me and labeled me a total nutjob, conspiracy theorist. Well, today it's a totally different story. I would like to think that today the majority of people realize that these things are definitely not conspiracy theory, but fact. Let's take the one world government theory. Unfortunately, there are still people that think that it is a load of nonsense. It is to these people that I am talking today, the skeptics, the denialists, and the plain ignorant. I am sure all of you have heard of Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, right? Klaus Schwab is the founder and head of the World Economic Forum, an organization that was brought into being by Klaus and a few other people around the world with the idea of one day dictating to us exactly how we will live our lives. Nobody, or should I say none of the average population were consulted. None of us voted for them. They just came into being with an ever-increasing authority over our lives. For years, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, amongst others, in conjunction with the super wealthy, have planned and slowly positioned themselves to take full control of the entire world and creating a one world government with a one world currency, where us, the general population, are considered nothing more than property or slaves to their system. What they have in store for us is both mind-boggling and extremely scary, to say the least. Now, for those that still think that this is a conspiracy theory, I would like to show you the following clip. In this clip, you will hear that the world government has already come together and are already planning your and my future. Don't believe me? Watch this.
We also need to pay attention to what is happening around us. I told you a minute ago, the World Government Summit. The what? The World Government Summit happened yesterday in Dubai, and it was the introduction session yesterday. And all the people that, are the usual people were there. Huge crowd, gigantic theater with all of the critical, important people. And it was kicked off by, lo and behold, Klaus Schwab. Here's what he said.
We do not yet know the full extent and the systemic and structural changes which will happen.
Now listen to this.
However, we do know that global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected.
Got it? We are changing things, and we don't know how that'll go. But we do know the global energy system, the food system, and the supply chains will be deeply affected. Well, but other than that, don't worry about it. It's only food, energy, and how we get things. But other than that, we're good.
So now we know that the one world government is a reality. I think we should look at a few things that they have in store for us. I'm sure you have all heard the words, you will own nothing and you will be happy. This is the policy of Mr. Klaus Schwab and his World Economic Forum. Can you imagine what circumstances you would have to live under to make that statement a reality? They have told us that we are going to experience food shortages, power shortages, and transport shortages or transport problems, logistical problems. If you think about it, this is our entire existence. The current conditions in China comes to mind, but I have my doubts about the happy part. That sounds more like an order to me. You will be happy, kind of thing. Another agenda of theirs is to kill off a good proportion of us because in their view, there are just too many of us for their liking. They are already doing this with the current plandemic that has by now been exposed as a totally planned and executed deliberate exercise that is only really going to reveal its true extent in a couple of years as the jabbed and boosted start to feel the effects of the poisons that have been injected to them and start to die. Of totally natural causes, of course. More about this later. Our financial system is another big target of these people and organizations. Your financial privacy and control over your own assets is about to become a thing of the past. Governments all over the world are talking about abandoning our current monetary system and introducing what they call digital money or CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Watch this video.
So they're all talking the same game. And for anyone who says, digital money, it's like Bitcoin. No, it's not. Well, it'll never happen here. Okay. Here they are yesterday. Pippa Malmgren, she's an economist and former presidential advisor in the U.S., speaking yesterday at the World Government Summit, talking about the new digital money.
What underpins a world order is always the financial system. I was very privileged. My father was an advisor to Nixon when they came off the gold standard in 71, and so I was brought up with a kind of inside view of how very important the financial structure is to absolutely everything else. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly,
yes,
we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one.
The
new one,
dollar.
the new accounting is what we call blockchain. It means digital.
Listen to
it
this.
means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private. But what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The U.S. is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction. The Europeans have committed to that as well. And the question is, will that new system of digital money and digital accounting accommodate the competing needs of the citizens of all these locations so that every human being has a chance to have a better life? Because that's the only measure of whether a world order really serves.
Yeah, I don't think so. But just to build on that, again, for anyone who thinks that I am crazy, you can now quote the New York Times. Not only is the New World Order, the Global Government Summit yesterday talking about this, but here's the New York Times. Central banks around the world are experimenting with issuing digital replacements for cash in the form of central bank digital currencies. But those are, by and large, not anonymous. Let me say that again. But those are, by and large, not anonymous. In January, a white paper from the Federal Reserve made it clear any digital currency it issued would differ materially from cash, which enables anonymous transactions, end quote. What does that mean? Let me translate. If the Fed issues a digital currency, which the president is now asking the Fed in a executive order to explore, they've already explored it. They have a white paper that's 78 pages long. They're on their own website. They put it there in January. They don't need to explore it. And they said that the Fed coin will differ materially from cash because no purchase will be anonymous. To some people, the loss of privacy is no big deal, especially if the death of cash makes life harder on criminals who often do business using stacks of $100 bills to avoid detection by the authorities. Representative Stephen Lynch, a Democrat from Massachusetts, a former iron worker who represents a part of Boston and its southern suburbs, isn't soft on crime, but he doesn't like the idea of banks and governments being able to track every single transaction every person makes. Quote, "We're trying to preserve some element of anonymity and not have full spectrum surveillance of every aspect of people's lives," end quote. This is from a Democrat. This is in the New York Times. Please don't say it's a conspiracy. And please don't say it could never happen here. Don't ever say those things again.
Some of you will now be saying, but we already have digital money. We have bank cards, which we swipe and never see the money we are spending. Trust me, what we have now is nothing like what they have planned for us. Think total control. You will have only one wallet or account which will be registered with the central bank, and every single transaction you ever make will be recorded, evaluated and analyzed. No more selling anything you have second-hand and pocketing the money. No more private transactions at all, and I can guarantee you each and every transaction will be taxed. For a short and very limited description on what I mean by total control of your finances, watch this video.
Where does that make you really think that you should welcome CBDCs with open arms? But there is a word that's often linked to CBDCs that not that many people seem to want to talk about, and it's a word that would grant governments permission to do things with money they've previously not been able to do, and that word is programmable. A CBDC would be programmable, meaning that just like a piece of software, the government would be able to put restrictions on it with digital rules. And this would give them an immense amount of financial power over you. Power that I will say is a little bit terrifying. So let me show you how this could potentially play out and provide you with a few hypothetical examples to illustrate my point. In times of economic hardship, your government doesn't want you to save money. They want you to spend it. Because when you spend money, it stimulates the economy. It makes money flow. So what if they could force you to spend your money? Well, with a CBDC, that would be possible. Your government could program your money to expire, meaning you would have a time limit to spend it. If it's not spent within a given time frame, for example, within 30 days, the money in your account would just disappear. Obviously, you wouldn't want your money to expire. So because of this expiration date, you'd go out and spend it instead. Basically, you'd be forced to take the action your government wants you to take. With a CBDC, it doesn't matter if you want to save your money or not, because that decision would soon be in the hands of your government. The idea of expiring money isn't actually hypothetical. Just last month in China, they rolled out their own form of digital currency, and they have been testing the expiration of money. But if that is not already concerning enough, what if your government wanted to control the types of things you buy? Well, with a CBDC, that is possible. We all know the world is currently obsessed with carbon emissions, and of course, it's great that we should care about our environment. Well, very soon, personal carbon allowances are likely to become a thing in much of the West, meaning that just like big companies, individual people will be limited to an amount of carbon they'll be allowed to put out every month. With a CBDC, a government could program your money so you can't buy fuel or plane tickets or even non-green foods and groceries once you hit your monthly carbon limit. Basically, your government will be able to completely control the things you can or cannot buy by programming your money. Apart from carbon, I'm sure your government would have a whole bunch of reasons as to how and why they would be able to control your spending habits. For me though, I honestly would prefer in a world where I get to choose what it is that I can and cannot buy, and when I choose to do so. I don't need some government body looking over my shoulder, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of you that would probably agree with this. But there is one last example I want to share on how CBDCs could be used in order to restrict your personal freedoms. As I just mentioned, China is one of the world's leaders in creating digital currency, but they're also a world leader in censorship and punishing their citizens for stepping outside the lines. In China, saying negative things about the government or taking part in protests can already result in a citizen's right being taken away. And the Chinese government already blocks some of these people from being able to buy train tickets, plane tickets, or even being able to get a passport. I believe being able to travel or get a passport are basic human rights. But with a CBDC, your government would have the power to restrict you from these things, just like is happening in China today.
If this doesn't scare you, nothing will. You will have absolutely no control over your own finances. None at all, nothing. Through your financial wallet, they will be able to control every single aspect of your life. Imagine not being able to or allowed to save for anything you would like to buy. Imagine being forced to spend all your money every month or lose what you don't spend. Imagine being dictated to on what you can spend your money on. Imagine being dictated to on how much of a particular product you are allowed to buy. Imagine having your account limited because you happen to disagree with the powers that be. You might say something wrong on a social media account, and the next day find your account has been restricted in some way with absolutely no recourse. Now, some of you might say that South Africa will never go that route. Think again, my friends. Take a look at this image. I have put it on the screen a number of times already. This is a screenshot from Business Tech. South Africa is already going in this direction.
The solution, if you want a digital currency, then use blockchain. And you leave the off-ramp people alone. This is the final grab of total power globally. You need to understand it, you need to brush up on it, and you need to stand against it. You also need to prepare for a time when this does happen. What are you going to do?
What we need to do is to actually realize the extent of what is being done to us and where it is going to end for most of us if we don't stand up and reject all of this outright. The only reason these people and organizations have any power over us is because we allow them to. No other reason. All we have to do, if we don't want to accept their financial system from hell, is to say no and to adopt our own totally decentralized currency that is not able to be influenced by anyone at all. Bitcoin is a good start, but it is very lacking in the privacy department. There are other blockchain projects that fare much better in that department, and I'm sure that there will be many more to come who rate even higher in all aspects. The bottom line is that we absolutely have to reject and refuse to use any CBDC issued and forced on us. It does not matter what they force on us. If everyone just refuses to use it, it automatically becomes useless and worthless. The money we use today is a perfect example of this. It is in fact worth almost nothing, but because we, the users, give it a perceived value, it is still used today, even though we all know it will soon collapse and be worthless as well.